Divya Vachidya Saphandavedya Prayopavesham Prati Vishnu Param Dhammudananya Bhavo Nivrato Mukta Samasta Sangha
Divya Vachidya Saphandavedya
Divya Vachidya Saphandavedya
Prayopavesham Prati Vishnu Padyam
Prayopavesham Prati Vishnu Paryam
Mukundam Brimananya Bhavo
Yadho Mukundam Vimananya Bhavo
Munivrito Mukta Samasta Sangha
Nivrato Mukta Samasta Sangha. Iti.
Thus, Vyavachidya, having decided, Saha, the king, Pandavyaha, worthy descendants of the Pandavas, Raya Upavesham, for fasting until death, Prati, toward, Vishnu Paryam, on the bank of the Ganges, emanating from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Dadho, gave himself up, Mukunda Angrim, unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Ananya, without deviation, Bhava, spirit, Munivritaha, with the vows of a sage, Mukta, liberated from, Samasta, all kinds of, Sangha, association. And I'll read the purport and our translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, the king, the worthy descendant of the Pandavas, decided once and for all, and sat on the Ganges bank to fast until death, and give himself up to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who alone is able to award liberation. So, freeing himself from all kinds of associations and attachments, he accepted the vows of a sage. The water of the Ganges sanctifies all the three worlds, including the gods and the demigods, because it emanates from the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead Vishnu. Lord Krishna is the fountainhead of the principle of Vishnu Tattva, and therefore shelter of his lotus feet can deliver one from all sins, including an offense committed by a king unto a Brahmana. Maharaj Parikshit, therefore, decided to meditate upon the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, who is Mukunda, or the giver of liberations of all description. The banks of the Ganges or the Yamuna give one a chance to remember the Lord continuously. Maharaj Parikshit freed himself from all sorts of material association and meditated upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and that is the way of liberation. To be free from all material association means to cease completely from committing any further sins. To meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord means to become free from the effects of all previous sins. The conditions of the material world are so made that one has to commit sins willingly or unwillingly, and the best example is Maharaj Parikshit himself, who was a recognized, sinless, pious king. But he also became a victim of an offense, even though he was ever unwilling to commit such a mistake. He was cursed also, but because he was a great devotee of the Lord, even such reverses of life became favorable. The principle is that one should not willingly commit any sin in his life, and should constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord without deviation. Only in such a mood will the Lord help the devotee make regular progress toward the path of liberation, and thus attain the lotus feet of the Lord. Even if there are accidental sins committed by the devotee, the Lord saves the surrendered soul from all sins, as confirmed in all scriptures. Supadamulang bhajata priyasya tyaktani bhavasya hari parisha vikarma yachchot patitam katanchid dunoti sarvam hridisani vishta, from Bhagavatam 11.5.42. And the translation of that is, one who has thus given up all other engagements and has taken full shelter at the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reaction to such sin. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kitanayam Yadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagdajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Pashyati Dishatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Brahmapadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradvishe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakamta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hri Priye Vanchakapa Durvyascha Kripa Sindhuve Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Okay. So, just to give a backstory, we have here the grandson of the Pandavas, who's Maharaj Parikshit. He's been cursed to die by a Brahmin boy. He's been cursed to die in 7 days. And we read earlier how Maharaj Parikshit, he saw this curse as a blessing, that now I have the opportunity to perfect my life. I know I'm going to die in 7 days, so now I can devote the rest of my life, 7 days worth, to cultivating bhakti by hearing about Krishna. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he gave up his kingdom. He went to the bank of the holy Ganga, and in this chapter we'll see that Shukadeva Goswami will come and he will begin to speak this book here, Srimad Bhagavatam, to him. And this verse, I was just noticing how it's highlighting a certain aspect of the character of Maharaj Parikshit. Previous Bhagavatam classes here, we've spoken about different qualities that he's exhibiting, like his great tolerance to receiving this curse, his great qualification as a devotee, as a king. But this verse is highlighting his determination, that he decided once and for all and sat on the bank to fast until death and gave himself up to the lotus feet of Krishna. So this verse is highlighting how Maharaj Parikshit he is fulfilling the purport of Sarva Dharman Parityaja, that he's giving up everything and he's just dedicating the rest of his energy to hearing about Krishna, to trying to cultivate bhakti for Krishna. And this verse is specifically speaking about how Maharaj Parikshit is taking shelter of Krishna, how he alone is able to give liberation. He's able to give his own bhakti. And so we see that in the material world, many people are taking shelter of so many different things. You have to take shelter of something. Taking shelter means finding some sort of pleasure, peace, or happiness in a certain activity or object. That's what taking shelter means, finding some safety in it. And we see, according to the influence of the material modes of nature on a certain individual, that person will take shelter of different things. So someone in tamogun, mode of ignorance, might take shelter of intoxication, sleep, laziness, causing harm to others, darkness, going out at night, going to the clubs. Somebody in mode of passion will take shelter of money, women, increasing his fame, power, and prestige. Somebody in the mode of goodness might take shelter of nature, healthy lifestyle habits, art, poetry, something like that. But the problem with all of these things is that they offer only temporary shelter at best. It's only so-called shelter. It's not real shelter because many of those things, they cause adverse reactions. They cause a lot of suffering. Just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that happiness in the mode of ignorance, it means that it tastes like nectar in the beginning, but in the end it's like poison. So that's how it is. People stay up all night drinking alcohol. It doesn't really taste like nectar, but maybe they feel very nectarian, and then in the morning the poisonous effects are there. So it's like that with pretty much everything in the material world. It's like that with family, society, material relationships. People are many relationships in the material world, not all, of course, but most of them are based on like mutual sense gratification. Meaning, if you satisfy my senses, as long as I continue to satisfy your senses, you'll satisfy mine. That kind of calculative relationship. Even the love between a mother and a child, it's the closest thing to spiritual love because it's quite selfless. As soon as the baby is born, the mother feels love for this child. And the mother wants to do everything for the child, even though the child can't reciprocate and do anything for her. But still, that relationship is based on the material body. It's called extended sense gratification. Why doesn't the love of the mother extend to all living beings? It extends only to herself and her bodily relationships. So therefore, it's also it's not perfect. And about this topic of temporary shelter, Prahlad Maharaj he's a great devotee, glorified in Srimad Bhagavatam. In his prayers, he says that he tells the Lord that whatever remedies souls may accept, if they're not favored by the mercy of the Lord, then these remedies are temporarily beneficial and they're certainly impermanent, he says. For example, he says that a father and mother cannot protect the child, a physician in medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. So this is a very stark example. One may contract a serious disease and enter into a hospital and think that one can be cured by the medicines, but it's not actually the ability of the doctor to, or the ability of the medicines to save that will actually save the person. It's actually if Krishna wants it to happen or not, if it's within that person's karma. So if one is without the Lord's mercy, one cannot be protected. So all of these forms of shelter in the material world, family, relationships, everything, it's all temporary. It can't actually protect us, Even a small child, he sees his parents as his like almost like supreme personalities that they can protect him from all things. That basically, the child sees the parents as God. But when the child grows up a little bit, he sees the realities of the material world affecting his parents even, and he begins to realize, if he's intelligent, that my parents cannot protect me from everything, especially the onslaught of death and just the way that the material nature is designed. There are certain things that no human being can ever stop. The progress of time, the death is coming at every moment. As soon as we're born, we begin to die. You can never stop that. There's actually a very interesting article I found the other day. Apparently, some people are trying to cheat death, and they're doing it by paying $200,000 to have their body preserved in like sub-zero temperatures with the hopes that science will one day be able to revive them. And many people have actually done this. And there's even, they advertise, they say actually there's a risk that if we are able to revive you, it's very likely you'll have severe brain damage. But people are so foolish that they've paid this money. Even it said that even a few people have paid this to preserve their pets, their dogs and cats. So yeah, it's the most amazing thing that people see that death is all around us. You see bugs, trees. Daily we see dead things that used to be alive, and we think it'll never happen to us. And then when a relative or a close friend experiences death or some major horrible catastrophe, it hits very close to home, and one who's intelligent might start to think and realize my situation. But most people don't do this. Sometimes on books I ask students, like, do you ever think about death? Like, you ever wonder what happens after? Do you want to know about it? And he says, no, when it happens, it happens. It's really scary. So the so-called shelter of the material world, it's like, given in the Bible, this example, it's like building a house on sandy shores. The smallest of storms will just blow it away. So we should instead build the house on solid ground, and that solid ground is known as Krishna, having faith in Krishna, because Krishna, he's eternal. The soul is eternal. The soul is trying to find happiness in material atmosphere. It doesn't work because the eternal soul is trying to enjoy temporary pleasures, but it's categorically not going to work. But Krishna is also eternal like us, so that will work. And we can only learn to take shelter of Krishna by increasing our faith in him. And that happens by associating with the devotees, by serving them in a humble service attitude. And not just any devotees. Rupa Goswami, in Nectar of Instruction, advises how we should choose our associations as Krishnetiyasya Giditam Manasadriyata Dikshasti Chet Prantabhisha Vajantamisham Shushushaya Vajanavegya Mananyamanya. He says that there's some devotees that they're chanting the holy names. We should offer respects to them. Others, they've received initiation. You should associate with them. And even there's devotees whose hearts are nindari shunya, that they're completely free of the desire to criticize others, and one should humbly serve them and associate with them, learn from them. So by developing our intelligence, we can understand like which devotees to associate with and spend a good amount of our time with. And by their association, we'll be uplifted and be able to make a swift progress on the path back home, back to Godhead. And in the second chapter of this book, it is said that Shushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nisheverat. That if you serve these devotees who are completely free from all sin, this is the best thing you can do, because then you will gain affinity for hearing about Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, your faith automatically will increase. If you hear with attention, with humility, just wanting to learn about the process of devotional service. And ultimately, Krishna came 5,000 years ago. And we were talking about in a class recently how he's come to attract us back to him. He's displayed these wonderful pastimes that we can read about in 10th canto. They're just so wonderful. I mean, everybody in the material world, they like to see some wonderful things, some circus acrobatics, some action movie, you want to read some thriller, some romance. But Krishna has displayed all of that and more in the fullest extent in his pastimes. And by hearing about those pastimes, by hearing about the philosophy and practice of devotional service, we can develop an attraction to go back home, back to Godhead. And it's a very simple concept. This, by hearing about something, we develop attraction for it. Even in the material world, I mean, you hear about, the lives of some rock stars or some personalities from history, and you develop some attraction to wanting to hear more about them. Or, if you associate with the fans of a certain sports team, you'll also become, a fan and give your life to trying to propagate their glories. So it's a very simple thing that happens. Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Krishna says that whatever we associate with, we develop attraction for that thing. So we should be very careful about what we let into our consciousness. There's so many material vibrations happening out there in the material world. What you see on TV, what you hear with the ears, types of music you hear, they affect our consciousness in very powerful ways that we can't really understand or notice. So that's why we should always try and be hearing about Krishna, hearing about his devotees. Just like Vaisheshika Prabhu gives this example that in the sewer drains, there's like some warning that's printed on the sidewalk that says like careful what you dump there because it drains the ocean. So like they don't want people to put in pollutants into the sewer drain because then it'll drain to the ocean. So similarly, so that whatever we put into our ears, it goes to our heart. So we should be careful what we put in our ears because that will form our desires and shape our consciousness. And Maharaj Parikshit is the greatest, he's the pinnacle of the example of a devotee who has dedicated himself to only hear transcendental vibration. And by this hearing only, he will achieve perfection. He will go back to Godhead. And we should follow in his footsteps in that regard. So Krishna is the most worthy person to take shelter of. He's so kind that even in this dark age of Kali Yuga, where the most sinful souls are taking birth with the greatest material desires, the most degradation, corruption, and filth is existing in Kali Yuga, Krishna, he comes here. He doesn't leave us to rot. He comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that was only 500 years ago. And the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just to give people the holy name and instruct them to chant the holy name. Because in the different yugas, there are different dharmas called the Yuga Dharma, which one should engage in order to achieve spiritual perfection. And in the Satya Yuga, people were meditating for hundreds of thousands of years because they had long lives. They were able to do that. And then in the Treta Yuga, people were engaging in sacrifice, I think. Yeah, so they were engaging in all of these really elaborate yagyas and things like that. Next Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, was people were constructing temples very elaborately. And in Kali Yuga, people are so spiritually apathetic. They have such short lives, such short memory, that they can't do these elaborate processes of meditation or Vedic yagyas. So what hope is there for them? That's why Mahaprabhu came to say, simply chant Hare Krishna. It's called Sankirtan Yagya. Kirtan means chanting, san means all together. So we have simply to take shelter of the holy names. Rupa Goswami says in his Namashtakam that the holy name is it's more merciful than Krishna because it's immediately accessible to us. And Mahaprabhu says that there's no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy names. You can chant it anywhere, at any time. There's no barrier for anyone. And even Krishna coming 5,000 years ago, enacting so many nice pastimes, some people think, I should have been born at that time. I could have, relished his pastimes, and hearing about it is not, it's not the same thing. But actually, Krishna is fully present in his holy name. It is said, Kali Kali Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. The holy name is actually an avatar of Krishna. It's not different from Krishna, but we can see that all the transcendental potencies of Krishna are situated within the holy name. And if one goes on chanting the holy name in a humble mood, one can realize those things. And literally all of our desires that we may ever have, every desire which is imaginable in the material world, can be satisfied just by the holy name alone. The holy name can award us everything. And ultimately everyone is desiring Krishna, actually, because everything that is beautiful in this world, everything that is stealing our attention and attraction, it all has its origin in Krishna, actually. So an intelligent person will want to know who is the artist of this creation, and how can I understand him and come to know him and love him, because that's actually where everything is coming from. He's the abode of all love, all beauty, all strength, renunciation. So in this verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport, it says Tyaktani abhavasya. It says that that means giving up all other shelters. And so this is something that we should do. We should ask ourselves, what am I taking shelter of in life right now? Am I taking shelter of things which may be stopping my further progress in devotional service? If so, I should give those up. I should be determined to try and give them up. Am I trying to increase my attraction for Krishna? Am I really trying to hear the holy name when I chant it? Am I trying to take shelter of the holy name? So we should ask ourselves these things. And another very important thing that Krishna or Srila Prabhupada is saying in this purport is that Krishna, he excuses his devotee from any accidental sins that they may commit. And this is a very important thing. Krishna is so forgiving. We could commit countless offenses, the greatest offenses that we could ever commit. We can commit them to the holy name, to Krishna. But Krishna is always ready to forgive us. And his love for us will never diminish because of anything that we do. Actually, Krishna, we heard yesterday, he's the soul of our soul. So he knows us more than any other jiva can know us. He can reciprocate with us better than any other jiva can. And other jivas, you can't control how they react. You can do a wrong to somebody and they could hate you for the rest of your life. But Krishna, he's so forgiving. And and Srila Prabhupada mentions here that to be free from all material association means to cease completely from committing any further sins. So on this point is where other religions, they kind of mess up. They think that you can continue engaging. Actually, they don't know what is a sin. They don't know. Christianity doesn't know that it's a sin to eat meat. But when we take initiation from the bona fide spiritual master, we promise to refrain from meat eating, from illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. And we make that promise before the sacrificial fire, the deity, before all of the assembled Vaishnavas, and the spiritual master, who's a representative of Krishna. We make this vow to Krishna himself, basically. And And if we're actually able to follow that and not fall from the path and not commit any further sins, then we can expect that the mercy will flow and we'll be able to make progress. And so what happens if a devotee does make that vow and Maya is so powerful that he's unable to keep that vow and he commits some sinful activity? Well, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one verse, apichet sudaracharo bhajate mamananyavak, that devotee should still be considered to be saintly, even though he may commit some horrible activity. And why is that? It's because his determination, his goal is set on, I want to serve Krishna. Even though there's so many obstacles, that devotee is still wanting to serve Krishna. And if his sinful activity is accidental, then Krishna is willing to excuse. Just like a father will excuse his child for any, children are always committing mistakes and, doing so many things which are not acceptable for adults, but the father excuses out of love. The father will excuse the child. So similarly, Krishna will excuse us if we have some accidental fall down or something like that, as long as we didn't do it intentionally. Just like the seventh offense to the holy name is that we should not commit sinful activities thinking that the holy name will then purify us of those sinful activities. The holy name will do that, but it's the wrong use and it's very offensive. It's just like when somebody in the material world, people use people to accomplish some activity which will eventually result in their own sense gratification. So that's what one is doing to Krishna. If one thinks that I can do whatever I want, the holy name will purify me. And this is what happened with one of the world's greatest religions. People were thinking, I can do all crazy things, and then every Sunday I can just pay for for the priest to pardon my sins, and then I can keep going. But this is great foolishness, actually. And it's not showing true gratitude. The holy name it's there. Krishna's offering himself to us in love. And if we treat the holy name in some business-like relationship, then Krishna will never allow us to understand him or come back to him. It won't. It just won't happen. And in devotees who may commit some accidental, or maybe even devotees who are not showing such Vaishnav-like qualities, maybe they're a bit harsh, or maybe you notice some things like that in them. We should see devotees like moons. The moon, we look at it and we don't see the craters on the moon, right? We don't see the spots, the blemishes. The moon is just so beautiful and effulgent, and that's all we really see and appreciate in the moon. Similarly, devotees, they're beautiful and effulgent because they've decided to dedicate their lives to spreading the holy name of the Lord. And even if they may not be able to do that right now because of so many conditionings, and because Maya is so powerful, we should still appreciate that and only take the good in them. Take the good, leave the bad, ignore those faults, and think that maybe I have those same faults that they're having to a worse degree. This is a good consciousness to be in. And, so yeah, and like this, a devotee is more in the purports. I forget which one. Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita says that the devotee is more merciful than Krishna. He says because Krishna, he demands that you have to surrender to me, but the devotee will approach people that are totally unqualified for bhakti, people in the streets, and ask them, please surrender to Krishna. Here's a book, here's some prasadam. And in this way, that person's devotional life is immediately has begun because of the mercy of that devotee. Just like Tulsi Maharani, we recite, even the greatest sin of killing a brahmana is excused just by circumambulating Tulsi Maharani. She's so merciful. And Srila Prabhupada, he is a representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada he came to the United States during the time of the hippie movement and was associating with, he was among very degraded people, in the Bowery in New York, just people just drunk on the sidewalk, sleeping there. And he left very comfortable situation in Vrindavan where he could just spend the rest of his life chanting and then just go back home, back to Godhead. But out of his great mercy and compassion for the fallen souls of the West, he came to such a horrible place and distributed Krishna consciousness to the most fallen people. So you can only imagine how merciful Krishna is if his devotee is acting in such a way. And so we should become inspired by this determination of Maharshi Parikshit that he said once and for all he's sitting down to surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna. So we should also decide once and for all that I want to end this material existence of mine. I want to give myself fully to the holy name, to spreading the Sankirtan movement. I want to give up all petty weaknesses of heart. I've in all these past billions and billions of life forms that I've taken, I've experienced every pain and every pleasure that is existing in the material world. Probably so many times I've experienced it all, and now is the time. We have the human form of life. If we don't do it now, we can risk falling back into the animal form of life, and then we have to spend billions and billions of more births to finally get the human form of life. And so we shouldn't quit our bodies just like the dogs and the cats, without any knowledge about where I'm going, about the goal of life. Because people who die without knowledge of Krishna, they're basically, their life is worth nothing. They've lived like animals. But we are so fortunate that we've found out about the goal of life we've received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the great souls. And we can regularly hear from realized people like Vaisheshika Prabhu, and we can daily chant the holy names. It's such a great opportunity. So we should take full advantage of it. We should become determined that yes, I will go back to Godhead in this one life. We shouldn't doubt that. We shouldn't think, maybe I won't be able to do it in this life. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, anything is possible. He didn't come to give us a chance at going back to Godhead. He's come to send us back. As long as we follow his instructions, follow his teachings, his life example, then what Srila Prabhupada has promised to us, what Krishna has promised to us so many times in Bhagavad Gita, that we'll come back to him if we always think of him, worship him, meditate on his form. All of these promises will come true. And especially, it's true that Krishna sometimes breaks his promise. And therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, he tells Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. He will gain eternal life, because the words of his devotees are never proven wrong. Krishna always fulfills them. So we can we can end there, I think. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections? Please come.
Hare Krishna, dear Balaram, Gopal, thank you for the lovely class. I like that we're discussing taking shelter in the material world and seeking pleasure in the material world. And I just heard something on Wisdom of the Sages, and Vaishnav Maharaj also uses this similar story. There's a story about a gentleman who meets a very pretty woman, and he asks her out for a date. And she says yes, and so his anticipation is building, his heart rate is building, he's very excited. They go to the movies, they sit down, the lights go down, it dims, the previews come on, and he leaves to go grab some popcorn for the date. As he comes back, he's walking into the movie theater, and the anticipation again is building, his heart rate is beating much faster, and the excitement is there. He sits down, and he's sneaking in his mind, okay, now, to make my move, I'll touch her hand. And he reaches out very slowly, he puts his hand down, and he puts it on top of her hand, and she accepts him. She takes his hand also. And he's like, yes, I did it. So much success. And it's so much pleasure, so much joy is coming from holding her hand. And he looks over, and to his dismay, he sat in the wrong seat. It wasn't a woman, it was a man. And so similarly, the material world is like that. Just by looking, at the woman, if you were to take the two people, person A, the woman, yes, the guy's like, this person will give me so much pleasure. Then he looks at the man, person B, no. But what happened was the opposite. Person A didn't give him any pleasure. It was the person B, the man, in which he had held the hand. So it just shows that these external things don't actually give us pleasure. It comes from within. And so that's the problem with the material world, is that we rely too much on these external things that aren't actually giving us pleasure. So I thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like Maya has packaged like the body in like such a enticing way that the subtle differences between like male and female, there's like such a slight difference, but we feel so attracted to one and so repelled by the other. But like yeah, just like the hand, like it's like it's like the same thing, male or female, but still this person is like very much in illusions, or this story. So yeah. And like this the body, what is it? It's just filled with blood, pus, mucus, stool, bile, urine. Beauty is only skin deep. So yeah, that's what we're not us, but that's what people are attracted to. Just this bag of all these substances.
If I may comment on that also, is that we went for books in San Francisco, and every store was either a nail store, hair salon, clothing store, nail store, and it repeated again and again and again, nail store. It's just in such a union.
You said that nature is like a temporary refuge, right? But I was thinking about, like, how there's that one verse that teaches that even if you offer me a flower, fruit, or something. So if, like, for example, gardening or something is done in a mood that is for Krishna rather than for sense enjoyment, is that necessarily like bad? I don't know.
If you're growing vegetables to offer to Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. Or flowers to offer to Krishna, like for garlands or something like that, or tulsi.
Yeah. There's this verse that was quoted yesterday by Shishkapu from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that any activity we do for our own sense gratification, that's called lust, kama. Any activity which we do for Krishna's pleasure, that's called love. So yeah, you can take the material resources from this world, like a flower, fruit, water, or a leaf, and it's maybe material, but if you offer it to Krishna, then it becomes spiritualized. because it's been used in Krishna's service. So, yeah, that's a wonderful thing to do. Garden for Krishna, and for his pleasure, offer those fruits and vegetables to him. Yeah. And actually, we can offer all of our thoughts, all of our actions, all of everything that we have, we can offer to Krishna, and that's spiritualizing those things, which would otherwise be engaged in our own sense gratification. So, yeah. Yes. Vijay, Prabhu, do you have any?
Thank you.
Thank you.
His Grace Balaram Gopal Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai.